Moving from nest 1, you can see there's a room there on the right, which I'll talk about in a minute. But this is a drawing. As you can see, there's the floating rabbit again and the shell, which I'll talk about another time. And that's a drawing I did in 2007. Again, you know, I sort of play and think about these things for quite a long time. So drawings really help me sort of think about, give me reflection time and help me think about things. I suppose it's quite therapeutic, really. I'm not really supposed to talk about that in the art world, about how therapeutic artwork can be, but, you know, and you're supposed to kind of be beyond that. But actually, fact is, I know a lot of people who find, you know, art in all sorts of forms a comfort and a sort of an outlet for things that they want to communicate. So here, this is a piece of work that I've wanted to do for a really long time, and I planned this piece for this particular show about 2 years ago, and you know, it's been very strange considering all the things that have happened in the last year. Just what I've done for this show, I just can't believe it. Well, like I say, this really was all stuff that I'd planned way in advance before Amanda's article came out. Anyway, so this is this very strange sort of gum strip cast process that I use. I'll do a quick explanation of the process I use for this. It's a very strange casting process that I developed when I was a student, for all sorts of reasons. If I ever meet you guys, which would be really nice, I can always talk to you about it again. But basically I use gum strip paper, and everything you can see here is as a result of having touched something or moulded it very carefully using this gum strip paper process, which I've developed myself. And it kind of dries, and then it's very dry and a bit horrible actually, but then I coat it in linseed oil, and that's what makes it really transparenty. I've done this on a really large scale with other things, birds and all sorts of other things. I had a big solo show about a year or so ago, which was all talking about historical sort of events and objects, and I did bits of casts of body and all sorts of things. Really enjoy doing it actually. But this one is called Lost Dialogues, and it's nearly 500 casts of mobile phones, and they're all sort of suspended a bit. What I've done is I've played a lot with perspective here, because I've sort of done a reverse perspective where you've got the big ones right at the back and you've got the small ones coming forward, and that sort of plays with your eyes a little bit. And it's the really nice shadows, which kind of get enhanced even more if you put lighting underneath. And also there's this feeling of piano strings behind, or you know, harp strings, but it felt like a piano to me. I always used to like the inside of my dad's piano. He was a jazz pianist. And basically they're all casts of, in effect, lost conversations maybe that you would have had instead of being on your phone, or maybe even representative conversations that can now never take place. So this is this piece. So my phone battery is annoying me, but I'm just going to carry on. I'll say this is a practice piece anyway. So you come into this room, continuing on before, I'm just going to show you the whole room. This is a room we use a lot for computer work, and people can sit down and they can have a look at the piece if they want. But I quite like that this was, the mobile phone piece was right next to the computer as well. That's partly what I talk about in the text, which I'll show you in a second. And then you come over here, and this is a piece that I wasn't thinking about showing, but I did in the end. And I've actually never shown this piece. It was a piece of work that I did in 1994. It's a triptych. I did it when I was studying photography at the Royal College of Art. I never showed anybody this, not my tutor, nobody. It was a piece I made, and which is actually quite common for me. I'll make pieces and then I'll just sort of store them away. Sometimes it's not very important for me to show them to people. But This is actually some negatives that I found. I was working a lot with found things, and then I found a load of negatives, like in a box, just kind of chucked in there from my family. This is actually, and there were photos of my sister and I on holiday in the beach. And they fit really well with some of the concepts behind the mobile phone, where, you know, everything is so throwaway and conversations are quite throwaway. So that's my sister Teresa there, and that's me. And then there's this photo in the middle, which when I developed it along with a whole number of other photos, just at the time, I think it's probably why I didn't show it to anybody. It just felt so, there was something about it that was completely representative of everything that happened, and, you know, us on the beach together, and there was a huge sense of loss when I developed this picture. And the two quotes, it's the quote in French, original one from Maxime Alexandre, and that's the translation. I scratched the writing into that particular photo in French and the original one, and I sewed over. So it's almost like the wound and then almost like the sewing over exactly the same quote. But it's a very pertinent one for me, and it's this quote actually that I asked to be put on the memorial bench for my sister on the Caldy grave. So a lot of what I just said there is not something that I kind of tell people about, but these are the accompanying texts to kind of give people something to link in, maybe from their own history or their story, but it also gives them a clue of some things that I've been thinking about. So when you come out of the Lost Dialogues room, I'll show you the things in the right at the moment because they're from my wonderful husband, David. I'm just going to show you the second part of the installation. So this is a very strange little room which we kind of rescued from being a very damp coat room. It's got a really nice corridor which we can put things in. I think this is the back of the house where the servants used to run backwards and forwards. We've opened it all up. And I called this the panic room. So the first thing that you see when you come in here, it's lovely, there's a little courtyard thing. These are swampy plants that managed to grow in our little backyard bit. There's actually more garden up there. It's very typical of this place, Ventnor, to have everything on terraces. But this particular, this is a cross-section of the same praying mantis nest that I showed you earlier. But as I said, the one in the previous corridor is like the whole shape of the nest, which is quite alien, and this is actually a cross section, and I've called this nest exposed to dissection, again in effect referring to the same things that I was actually feeling. So I really, it was very good for me to do these drawings. This is, with some of these things, I often, you know, if I'm thinking about drawing, because I've loved drawing for a long time and used it a lot, I do often use drawing to work out areas of form and sculpture and pick out things that I want to pull out or enhance. And so like these drawings as drawings themselves are actually really, really satisfying for me. I've loved doing them, and I've loved doing them on this scale, and I really like it that actually nobody can really buy these. They're on the wall, and we'll cover them up, we'll paint over them. And then you turn here on the right, and this is a bit which actually some of my friends actually thought I was going to be filling a room full of actual praying mantis insects, and they really believed that I was going to do that, and so they weren't going to come to the show because it's too much for them. But these are actually drawings of praying mantises, which again I've drawn on the wall, all in different kinds of poses of fighting or eating. I think this one is particularly phallic. I think I was saying this one looks quite phallic. This one obviously looks like it's praying. That one's looking over its shoulder. These two are fighting. That one's getting attention or warning. There's one eating one of its own. I think there's another one eating a beetle, but and there's one dragging its nest behind them. And a lot of people really like these actually. I mean, I've made them kind of attractive enough for people to actually quite like them, but I'll just show you the text. And a lot of people said, oh, why have you chosen praying mantises? So I did, again, a really, really rare thing for me. I really don't often put any texts at all with my work. I literally just have fun maybe playing with the title. But with this one I did kind of go into a little bit more explanation of what I was doing. And I've had a really positive response. We've had lots of people coming to see the show, which is really gratifying, but also lots of people starting to talk to me about things and feeling comfortable actually about asking me questions, which is really good. So that's really nice. As I said, a lot of people sort of see them as, they really liked it. They saw them as dancing insects, which is absolutely fine. For me, it was like a bunch of fighting, inhumane escapees from some kind of asylum, really, that you were surrounded by. In effect, I saw, you know, like, I called it the panic room because, you know, a panic room is actually supposed to be a safe place, a space of survival, really, but it's also a place you go to when you know you are under attack and you need to go there and you're very aware of things that are going on, but it's also a place where literally it's almost like your most innermost fears are kind of realised. So again, that's why I kind of named it that. Not a lot of people asked me about the name Panic Room. They just kind of assumed it was about fears, maybe even literally fears of insects, which was fine, absolutely fine. You have to let go of work once you make it. I'm going to really briefly show you some things to do with David. He does very beautiful collages and he's kept his under the theme of missing as well. I'm just going to switch the light on. Oh, there we go, that's better. We do spotlights on his work as well. So this is work actually that he did in the 1980s and 1990s. They're very beautiful hand collage pieces. And he's stuck to the theme of kind of these heads with objects sort of obliterating them, obliterating their identity, but also he quite often chooses anonymous heads, and then the things that he overlays on top of them are objects that have, or textures or things that have meaning to him. And he's taken that to like a really amazing level for his new work. So this is like older work, and it fits into his theme of waking and sleeping, times of war and death. David is a history painter, essentially, and he looks a lot at conflicts and things that are existing now and their time and their relation to things that happened in the past. So you come into this room and it's beautiful. It's like a burst of colour. I'm going to show you his prints together all at once so you can see. This is what we will do in the future. We will show his work all together, put together like this. 32 heads, this piece is called. And again, the same idea. These are not famous people. These are people. People often think they're kind of maybe celebrities or things, but they're not. So they're people underneath, and then the objects that he's placed over the top of them that kind of make their features missing, and they're all disembodied heads as well. They're all missing their body. Are all objects that have a signifier for him. He's got a really interesting painting technique as well. He uses this special kind of acrylic paint which can make it look very flat, and it can make it look like a print. And then he does certain kind of dribbly things, I suppose, for want of a better word, to show the artist's mark afterwards. But he's a very beautiful and precise painter, and this is actually a really nice room to show his work as well. He's had a lot of really great response to this set of pieces. And then I'm going to really, really briefly show you our room that we let people come into. People really like this. We invite them for a cup of tea if they come to see the show. And these are some other works which actually we'll show, of David's, which we will show another time in entirety. It's got about 178 works. These are prints and things all around. I'm speeding through this because I don't want my phone to run out before I wanted to show you that this is an old piece. Again, he's like me, he goes backwards and forwards, always talking about the same things in a cycle. It's very common. This was 15 Caesars. So I hope you really like your behind the scenes tour. I realise I need to stop saying actually and I say quite a lot as well. So thanks for the practice, and I'm really looking forward to hopefully meeting up with you hopefully this year. Let's see what happens. Bye.